I think it plays to everything that we've spoken about and others. I mean, the the overarching feeling in the out there is that that people are struggling. Businesses as well, in a multitude of different factors. We talk about housing starts for construction. How far off they are. When you talk about construction, what comes to mind is those building starts, home renovations. Like, people aren't doing them. They're not willing to borrow because of where interest rates are at
hmm
to fund that renovation or that addition. And for
Or leverage
builders
their own home.
yeah, and builders aren't building new product because it's not selling and the interest rates are too high for them to carry that. So I mean, it really is kind of speaking to me, that article is speaking to that underlying issue of the economy and where we've been at, and certainly I think kind of plays to why the likelihood of a drop of a half point by the Bank of Canada because of all of these underlying issues. Like, retail should be propped up with all the immigration we had. Everyone coming in is having to buy new furniture, buy new clothing, this, that, vehicles, and it's still not enough that that it's not keeping those areas and industries propped up.
Welcome to the Ottawa Real Estate Podcast. Join your hosts, Paul Stevenson, David Warren, and Greg Campbell, as they explore the world of real estate and mortgages. From the heart of Canada's capital to markets nationwide, and even a little beyond. Get ready for expert insights and hot topics. Let's get started.
Hello, and welcome back to the Ottawa Real Estate Podcast. My name's Paul Stevenson, joined as always by my hosts, Greg Campbell, David Warren. Gentlemen, how we doing?
Amazing. Not amazing,
Fantastic.
just amazing.
Just amazing.
Just amazing today. Half man,
like
half amazing.
corn amazing. It's that time of year,
Ah.
How was the weekend? We're doing a special afternoon rendition, and I feel like the vibe's different in the afternoon. We've been working all day, we've been talking to clients all day. We're tired. We've worked.
I'm surprisingly pumped for 3 p.m. I think it's because it's the first day that I feel closer to being 100% since I felt ill.
Yes.
Recently. It's refreshing. I got up 4:45 the last 2 days, back to my normal routine here. I got on the bike, did my yoga, did my qigong. Feel amazing. Amazing. Okay. It's just good energy right now.
Amazing.
It's like I've beat the bug. I beat the bug with a bat.
Well,
it stole all the pigment from Greg's face.
Apparently. I don't know what's going on here. Yeah. I don't know. I could do. Well, that's even more, right? I can go.
Greg's got his
disappear into like a cold freezer.
Greg's getting ready for Halloween with his ghost costume over there.
Yeah.
In the black space.
Yeah.
With the one light behind the purple chair. That's how I live in this room.
Gentlemen, the last week, I have to say, until today, the market has been busy. I feel like there's been a lot of people that were sitting on the sidelines that decided to get in the game. A lot of movement. And I know, Dave, you got an article actually saying exactly that for the month of September. But I found beginning of October, a lot of people kind of, I think now school's back in, everyone's settled, maybe getting a little bored. Hey, life's a little too calm now, so people want to get crazy. They want to start buying. But yeah, no, a lot of purchases happening in the last week, and just this morning, over the weekend, Dave, we saw rates spike up. There was some news out of the U.S., as you mentioned, the job numbers, and the 10-year Treasury bill in the U.S. went up, which in turn spiked up our 5-year Government of Canada bond, which impacts the fixed rate. So we saw fixed rates overnight last night jump up almost a quarter point across the board with most lenders. So anyone who got an approval or locked in a rate in the last couple weeks, you're looking good for the time being. I would imagine when the Bank of Canada does their rate announcement October 23rd, there's almost 100% chance it's going to go down at least a quarter point. They're saying there's now a 50-50 chance it'll go down 50 points. And I think that will probably bump those fixed rates back down again in turn with the bond rate. But it's been interesting. It's been a bit of a roller coaster. I don't think anyone predicted, at least in the last month, that we were going to see rates spike up again. So it's caught a few people off guard, and a lot of conversations happening late last night as the news came out for all of us. And yeah, surprising. But gentlemen, what have you been seeing in the last week? Don't mean to steal the mic here.
Go ahead.
So I think, kind of to your point with kind of people out shopping, I know that there has, at least again, this is anecdotal between Paul and I of what we're seeing. This isn't necessarily for everyone, but certainly, quite a few people reaching out, either starting to shop or act with active purchase agreements. And I think to what you just mentioned about the rates going up last night, over the last 5 days, we've seen the bond come up 30 basis points. Last week, the U.S., as Paul mentioned, the U.S. job market, they were expecting an add of 140,000 jobs, and it came back from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics of 254,000 jobs added. Now, keep in mind when you kind of dig in, and I was fortunate to be able to chat with a chief economist from one of the banks last week. And one thing that he really highlights and focuses on for those that are, keeping tabs and on what's going on in the market is that a lot of these job numbers out of the US are then revised down. So these numbers at 254,000 at the same time for numbers from the previous quarters and previous months, they revise them down, meaning they basically say, oh, we were wrong about that. And we're, there wasn't actually 250,000 jobs. It was more like 110,000. And the number in the US is really, the number in the US is really odd that this year alone, there's been that the job numbers that have come out in the US, they've had to revise them down a total of what they've said in the news that has been added of 23%. So what they put out there in the headlines of adding, in this case last week, saying 254,000 jobs over the entire year, from what the headline has been to what they've revised and what the actual is a decrease. The actual is 23% less than what they've had in the headlines. However, most people only read the headlines and don't actually dive into the numbers. And so those headline grabbing figures of, 254,000 jobs added really spiked the bonds because people don't really, spend the time digging into things until later on. And for some reason, there's not this focus on the revision numbers. And so that really saw our, as Paul mentioned, our bonds, our 5-year government bond really kind of jump up, and we've really seen that going up. So I think it was certainly surprising for everyone as far as those numbers out of the US and for our rates coming up. But, kind of goes to show that fluctuation in rates, whether it be fixed, we're expecting obviously the drop by the Bank of Canada to affect prime, but fixed rates are still kind of up and down. And some lenders we saw from a quarter point, some as high as even 35 basis points that they increased overnight. So it goes to show you, for those that are thinking about getting the market or that are actively shopping, like locking in a rate or a pre-approval, or if you're up for renewal in the next 4 months, like lock in either fixed rate or variable rate, watch the market. You don't, the good thing about working with a mortgage broker is we're able to pivot prior to that funding date to either a different product or float your rate down to the lowest available. And so we're able to continue to watch those. But I think that's, from last night's spike, it goes to be even more important for either those people shopping up for renewal or even those or realtors that are working with clients, like making sure that, they haven't just been pre-qualified, getting that rate lock in so that they're out shopping and that number that you're working with is accurate, so that it's not kind of, you're not jockeying that you go and put an offer and it's like, oh, well, actually rates came up to 30 basis points. We're going to have to, that shaved X thousands off the top qualifying.
Yeah, I actually had a client last night that was still kind of teetering between fixed and variable, and they have a renewal coming up in November. So we were doing a transfer. I was ready to submit the file, and they're kind of leaning towards variable. And I said, listen, the discount on the variable is very likely not going to change, but the fixed rates are changing as of midnight. So we submitted it on the fixed rate, knowing that we can just switch it back to a variable if they want in the coming weeks. But at least that way they're locked in at the current fixed rates before the rates went up quarter point today.
While
so
they decide.
Still kind of leaves the door open, but it allows them to at least have that fixed rate as, as a worst case scenario. So Gentlemen, should we get into the news?
Get
I know
into
we have
some
a lot of
news.
news.
There's a lot of news. I mean, that was the news. You guys were just speaking some news there.
That was
That
part
was
of the
news.
news.
It was news. It was news to me. It's new to me. News to me. I got something for you.
Let's hear it.
Get into
Fire.
this article from Better Dwelling. Canada's business landscape is facing significant challenges, with recent data showing a concerning wave of closures. Statistics Canada revealed that in June alone, 46,354 businesses shut their doors, making it the largest number of closures since the early pandemic days of 2020. That's pretty substantial. The spike erased more than a year of economic progress, drawing comparisons to the worst moments of the pandemic lockdowns. This is wild. The business closure rate climbed to 5%, meaning 1 in 20 businesses across the country permanently ceased operations in June. Notably, industries such as construction and retail, which should have seen growth due to population increases, were hit particularly hard. This widespread trend suggests underlying economic weaknesses impacting sectors that typically thrive in more stable environments. New business openings also saw a sharp decline, dropping by 8.6% to 39,482. This decline in entrepreneurship, combined with a surge in closures, reduced the total number of active businesses in Canada by 1%, bringing the total to 929,173,000. This is crazy. These numbers are just wild to me. You know, things that you don't know until you know. That's the lowest since April 2023. In just 30 days, over a year of economic gains vanished. The combination of rising closures, fewer openings, and a higher unemployment rate points to a troubling picture for Canada's economy. Despite the country's global reputation for stability, does it still have that reputation? I don't know about that. These trends raise serious concerns about the strength of the recovery and the future outlook for Canadian businesses. What do you think about that?
But I think it plays to everything that we've spoken about and others. I mean, the overarching feeling out there is that that people are struggling. You know, businesses as well, in a multitude of different factors. You know, we talk about housing starts for construction. You know, how far off they are. You know, when you talk about construction, what comes to mind is those building starts, home renovations. Like, people aren't doing them. You know, they're not willing to borrow because of where interest rates are at to fund that renovation or that addition, and for
or
builders,
leverage their own home.
Yeah, and builders aren't building new product because it's not selling, and the interest rates are too high for them to carry that. So I mean, it really is kind of speaking to me, that article is speaking to that underlying issue of the economy and where we've been at, and certainly I think kind of plays to why the likelihood of, you know, a drop of a half point by the Bank of Canada because of all of these underlying issues. Like, retail should be propped up with all the immigration we had. Everyone coming in is having to buy new furniture, buy new new clothing, you know, this, that, vehicles, and it's still not enough that, you know, that it's not keeping those areas and industries propped up.
It shows a sign, I think, that industries like that, not as many people are going out and shopping, and the people offering those services can't keep the inventory that they have and the leases in the spaces in their location. So, you know, a lot of people are shopping online for everything now. That's part of it too. I'd really love to see like a series, someone who goes out and interviews people whose businesses just failed, or people that, you know, had plans to start and stopped. I know that's not the easiest thing to get, but I'd really like to hear the stories as to why, because I think that number is going to increase like by 10 within the next 12 months at least.
I think there was also a minimum wage increase. I think it was in August. Now, this is after those numbers. I think you said that was for June, Greg, or July.
June.
But yeah, I mean, the minimum wage has gone up, and I know this is obviously a very small microcosm of the economy, but here in Carleton Place, I've spoken to a lot of business owners that have lost employees and are basically just working more hours themselves, like as the owners of the business. They're not hiring again. They're not going to take anyone on because they just can't afford to. The margins are thin, and they're basically taking on those extra hours themselves in their shops. I know there's one shop in town here where they had 3 people working for them. Those 3 all went away for school, and now it's just the 2 owners that are working. Like, they're not hiring anyone else. They're just going to work the 2 of them, and that's it. And I think that's happening probably across the board because the cost of everything has gone up, minimum wage has gone up, so the cost to have workers has increased. And the cost of goods has gone up. The cost of materials has gone up. So everything is increasing. This has been happening for a while now. But I think, we're going to see people lose employees and just not hire again. So there's just going to be jobs lost and no created jobs, as you said. I agree with you. So switching gears to the complete opposite end of the spectrum, an article that I saw in Financial Post, headline is Boomers are giving kids money before they die in dysfunctional system. So the so-called great wealth transfer is well underway in Canada, with baby boomers set to pass on $1 trillion to their heirs in the coming years. However, many are getting a head start, helping their millennial and Gen Z children purchase homes before they pass away. I can definitely speak firsthand to this. According to Jamie Golobeck of CIBC Private Wealth, gifting funds for home purchases has become increasingly common as housing becomes more unaffordable, particularly in cities like Toronto and Vancouver. A recent CIBC report highlights that 31% of first-time homebuyers now receive financial assistance from family members, up from 20% in 2015, with an average gift of $115,000. Many parents are opting to transfer wealth early, not only to help their children, but also to reduce their taxable income. Since Canada doesn't have a gift tax, it's a financially savvy move for parents looking to pass down their wealth. However, this trend has also highlighted growing generational inequalities. Baby boomers benefited from more affordable housing and higher wages during their working years. Paul Kershaw, policy professor at UBC, points out that while many boomers are in a position to help their children, those without significant wealth are being left behind, deepening the divide. Experts warn that this pre-transfer of wealth might perpetuate the cycle of housing unaffordability, with younger generations continuing to depend on family wealth to enter the housing market. This could lead to further economic insecurity for those without such financial support, raising concerns about the long-term sustainability of Canada's housing system. That's a summary of the article itself. But yeah, I mean, Dave, I'm sure you can attest to this too. I mean, I would say, 31% is, I guess that's probably pretty accurate. I would have guessed it was even higher than that. I would even guess probably closer to 40 or 45%.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah, a lot of people getting, it might not be the full down payment, but some portion of it. They might be at 15% themselves. Parents are giving them that extra 5% to avoid the insurance. And, as I said, there's no gift tax. So, you can gift that to your children tax-free. It's their primary home. So when they sell, it's also, there's no capital gains on the increase in the equity. So it really is a kind of a tax-free wealth transfer.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say certainly in that, in that same range as far as seeing from gifted for first-time home buyers. I think there's a divide. Like the Toronto, Vancouver markets and the more expensive markets are going to see a higher propensity or a higher number of parents helping their kids purchase a home, whereas in maybe the Maritimes or smaller markets where it's more affordable, that they're able to save and not needing those gifted funds as much. But yeah, I mean, if somebody has the ability to, I think it's certainly something that is, as you said, there's tax advantages to doing it as well.
It's savvy, as they say.
It's savvy.
It's savvy, very savvy.
Very savvy. I like it. Now I'm thinking of my daughter, Savvy.
Yeah, I know. That's what came to my mind. I'm like, savvy. Hold on.
Yeah.
What else we have in the news? What else is headlining?
I mean, there's a couple, we touched on it earlier about, the sale, it being busy, and we said anecdotally the last week or two has been busy, but, CTV was polling and looking at the numbers with the Ottawa Real Estate Board. In Ottawa alone, sales in September were up another 11% over last year. So August was up 10%, September versus 2023 for the same month. And then this past September, we saw an 11% increase in sales. Obviously, listings are up as well, but I think that's, again, kind of in that trend upwards. And we've seen over the last 9 months, like all of 2024 is certainly up over the same period for last year. This is without really those rate cuts kind of playing into it yet. And I think that, those that are thinking about getting in the market, kind of evaluating whether now is the right time, but certainly as rates come down, or at least the Bank of Canada, the likelihood of those kind of increase in percentages year over year, month over month will continue. and we'll kind of see it. And to what we talked about the other week, where in Ottawa, we're 22% of housing starts that are kind of earmarked. As those sales pick up, those listings will deplete. And if there's no new product on the market, that's going to pose an issue, and we're going to, I think we're going to come to a head from a supply and demand issue.
It's really interesting
again.
because I've never seen more opportunities for buyers in, like, I've said this probably before on the show, but you know how things change, and it's like you see it again and then you're like, oh, this is actually even more opportunistic for buyers right now. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous right now. There are homes selling for much less than what they should be valued at, in my opinion, but that's the market. So and I've seen tons of vacant properties again. I was out looking at townhomes in Orleans built between 1989 and 1995 the other day, and the prices were $490,000 to $520,000. To get a townhome at that price is just insane. $500,000.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking like ones at $520,000 that have been on the market for a month and a half. You could get them for $5. So, we'll see what happens here. The buyers are being very, very cautious. And of course, they are controlling it to an extent because the listings still keep coming out.
Are you trying to grow your mortgage business? Centum has the tools and support to help you take your business to the next level. Get access to everything from free unlimited custom marketing to daily direct pay. Find out what your business can do with Centum. Learn more at joincentum.ca.
Are you thinking of buying or selling a residential property? Relationships are at the heart of every real estate transaction. At Geltin Poirier Avocat Lawyers, we love to bring residential buyers, sellers, agents, lenders, mortgage brokers, and the law together to close the deal for you. For an effortless client experience that opens doors, call us at 613-744-4488 or visit our website at geltinpoirierlaw.ca. Let's get to the heart of your deal.
I mean, this is probably a good segue into some stats.
Stat me.
Let's see the stats.
Get that little... Ooh, yeah, market stats. That's what I was waiting for. We're getting better. All right, so let's get into this. This is for the month of September. This is Ottawa, Greater Ottawa. I did the entire Ottawa this time. All property types, condos to $1 million homes, new construction, resale properties, the whole 9 yards. So on the first chart here, guys, we have homes for sale, September 2022. Look at that. 2,694,000 in 2022. 2023 up 17.2% to 3,157. And then 2024 up another 18.8% to 3,749 homes for sale. I think that's very telling.
Yeah.
Now the new listings 2022, it was 2,100, 2023 2,300, basically round that up, and 2024 2,400. Those are new listings for September. Slightly more from last year, but not that aggressive of a change. Now, see, this is where it gets really interesting for me, because I don't think a lot of people see this, or they think that this is a real thing. This is the average sales price of all properties in Ottawa over the 3 years. I'll round it up again here. 2022, 661,000, 2023, 680,000, and 2024, 690,000. This is the average sales price. So it's higher, it's more. People would say that the prices are going down, and in a lot of cities it is, but in Ottawa, we're still we're stable, even a little bit of a bump up there.
Well,
However,
last year
the median sales price, 2022, 675,000, 2023, 625, 2024, 635,000.
There it is. That's what I was wondering, because I knew last year overall prices were kind of down throughout the year, right? So that was kind of surprising in that last chart.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought as well. I'm just going with the numbers we get. I don't know how they, maybe there's some things that we miss, but just reporting the news, latest stats from the Ottawa Real Estate Board. Now, this one is also interesting. I always love looking at this. So the average percent of the original list price, like what it sold for based on the list price. So it's almost the same. It's basically 97% of the original list price seems to be a fair balance of what properties are listed at what they sell for. So that's year over year. I bet you we could go back 10 years and it would probably be around the same. They sell for about 97% of the asking price.
Except for 2021, where it was probably like 106 or something.
Yeah, sorry, you're right. Of
Yeah.
course, that would be a little bit of an anomaly. Should have put it in there just for that one stat.
That year was, remember there was sometimes it was like 140%, 130%. It was so ridiculous.
The nonsensical year.
Yeah.
What do I have here? Median cumulative days on market. Okay. Median cumulative days on market. So this is how many days on market for each year. 2020, 22, 30, 2023, 27 days, 2024, 34 days, cumulative days on market, which is average. I mean, that's not bad at all.
Mm-hmm.
September month's supply of homes for sale. This is interesting. 2.2 in 2022, 3.1 in 2023. That's up 41%. And then up another 13% to 3.5 months of inventory in 2024. That's, that's balanced or leaning in favor of buyers, right? Which we know in most neighborhoods, it's still considered balanced in Ottawa, but there's some communities that are definitely in favor of the buyer right now. September total sold. 2022, there was 951. 2023, 956. 2024, more sales. Up 11.7%, 1,068 homes total sold in Ottawa and surrounding areas. Average showings to sold. In 2022, it took an average of 11.4 showings to sell a property, 10.3 in 2023, and 10.6 in 2024, which is what, as a general rule of thumb, as a realtor, when I meet with clients, especially with first-time buyers, I'll say, you will probably see at least 10 homes before you make a decision. And it's almost bang on in all cases. So that number is very accurate from someone who is active in the field relaying that information to you.
Or if you have a listing and you have 10 showings and don't have an offer, then you need to revisit your pricing or your strategy, I would say. Based on
Greg, can we pull out your crystal ball for 1 second?
Yep.
If we're looking, let's fast forward 12 months. Okay, I'm gonna have a little less hair, and it'll be a little older. What do those charts look like for September 2025? In your expert opinion?
Exactly the same.
Same as this year.
Yeah.
So up, stagnant.
We're at that plateau unless there's something incredibly important that affects the entire globe or the country.
Well, that's also very likely.
It's also possible. I mean, there's things happening right now. I pay attention to all that stuff, but like in terms of real estate in Ottawa, I think it's going to stay. Like if even if it drops a bit, like it does at certain points in the year, the balance is going to be around the same. I mean, if you look at that chart, the last 3 years, it's almost exactly the same based on that, which is wild, except 2022 has a few more skewed. But last year to this year, it's almost the same market.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm interested, as Dave, you mentioned that we're outrageously tied to the US and what happens in the US. Obviously, they have an election coming up in less than a month. So that's going to be very interesting to see depending on who gets into power there, what happens or stays in power, what happens with their economy, and in turn, how that impacts ours. And then also we have obviously an upcoming election as well, probably in the next 12 months. And yeah, there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of international conflict as well. Greg, you kind of alluded to things happening. So that's why I kind of wondering 12 months from now, the world could look completely different in many different ways.
It could. And that's why I say, like, from just like a generic standpoint, I see it the same.
I think from a finance, like from a mortgage rate or financing perspective, it's the first time in years that there's been any changes to the rules for first-time home buyers, with the advent of 30-year amortization, for all first-time home buyers coming in, to take effect shortly, how that's going to affect, with the change in, that upper limit, won't really affect our local market much, but will to some degree others. So I'm curious to see with that in combination with, downward pressure on Bank of Canada policy rate, of how those in combination with one another, affect things by the December 15th, change, bringing in 30-year amortizations for all first-time home buyers. That's going to coincide with, the end of October rate decision on the October 23rd. And then I think it's around the 15th is the December decision that, if we do drop that 0.75 of a point, like 50 in October, what that shakeup looks like, further one in December, at least in the, in the very short order, we're going to have those policy changes plus the rate changes, which continue to grab headlines. Like there's more people that I've ever known to talk about Bank of Canada or look at bonds or look at the market as a macroeconomic perspective. So it'll be interesting to see how that affects things in the very short order, because those coinciding with each other, and if it's continuously going down with the Bank of Canada and further into a recession, like how that, like you talk about something unforeseen changing. Well, if the numbers are correct and we are actually in a recession, like just a masked recession, then we have to really plummet rates down. And, that's the reason why housing went crazy during COVID, because money was free. So at what point do they lower rates down over the next 12 months, whether that brings people off the sidelines and whether it gets builders going? Because if there's no building going on right now, like I said at the beginning already, it takes time for those to ramp up. So in the meantime, it's resale properties that are kind of having to move.
I had 2 first-time buyers this week. They were looking at resale, like not looking at new builds at all. And they both transitioned to buy January and February new constructions on 30-year AMs. So taking advantage of that. And yeah, I agree with everything you're saying. I couldn't have said it better myself, David. Hit the nail on the head.
I think the next 3 months are going to be very telling about what the next 5 years is. It just seems like everything is coming to a head in the next 3 months. Closing 2024 with a bang, if you will. Of some kind.
Yeah. Mood boost, gentlemen? What do you think? Too early?
Yeah.
Just on time? All right. I got 3 today.
It's always on time. Mood boosts are always on time. What are you talking about?
I have many other things, but you know what? We're capping out here, I think. I think we're good. I can continue next time. Next go. That was amazing.
All right, I got 3 today, as always. Number 1, what has more lives than a cat? A frog, because it croaks every day.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. There we go. Great.
Hey, we'll get a post-production edit on that one.
What do you call a typo on a headstone? A grave mistake.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Sounds pretty good. Number 3, last but not least, my book about clocks finally arrived. It's about time.
Great.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
For me today? You know what arrived for me today?
What, Greg?
My new Ecobee thermostat and doorbell, video doorbell. First time I've had anything like that.
Good luck stealing Greg's Amazon packages moving forward. Okay?
Very exciting. Don't go to my house and steal my package.
Exactly. Leave Greg's package alone.
Just disclosed everything.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. New episodes are out every Wednesday, 10 a.m. And as always, be sure to subscribe, like, share, comment, and follow us on our socials. We got some great exclusive content on there, and we really appreciate you listening. We'll be back next week. Have an awesome day and have an awesome week.
Deuces.